Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria Cole and today we are doing part 2 of Let's Talk About Love. So if you're ready to jump in, be sure to continue watching. Alright, so today I'm going to do a little bit of a different thing than what I've done in the first video. And if you have not seen the first video, I encourage you to go watch it. It's not like a chronological order. I think you can watch either one. So you can watch this one and then, shift gears and watch the other one. Because in the other one, I gave 3 nuggets that I think are so vital and so important as for a single person to grasp a hold of and use and do and follow through with, so that you can have a good and successful future in your relationships, in your marriage, and whatever else you decide to do. So today I just kind of wanted to share my story and how I came about and how exactly I put in those 3 points to use. I was a young girl, and since I was a little girl, my sister dedicated her life to God and to serving God, and she bought us a little frame, and it says true love is worth the wait. And she told all of us girls, which I have 5 sisters, and she told us that she will follow through that commitment, and then once she finds her husband, she will sign the back of that frame and pass it on to whoever's next, which was me. Which is not to say that we were kind of waiting for each one of our sisters to kind of marry in the chronological order, but because we did and some of us didn't. And so but we kind of did the same thing, and we signed the back of the frame every time somebody found, that someone special that they were looking for, and they, dedicate their life to waiting. So that was kind of instilled very early on in my age, and I kind of dedicated my life to God, and I, decided to pursue God. And I think whenever you're, 12, 13, 14, especially, about, 10 years ago, it was a little bit different, because you were kind of like, ew, boys, cooties, I don't want to, touch them, I don't want to be around them. Well, nowadays, you have little kids as far, as young as kindergartners who know exactly what sex is, what intimacy is, maybe not in a right mind, but just in a perverted way, because we have so many parents, so many young parents that are not really ready to be parents, that have, immaturity in their own life. And so they're not able to raise their children in the way that God really intended them to raise. So we're having a lot of perversion going on now. But, when I was at that age during that time, it wasn't as difficult because you didn't sense that pressure of all this surrounding stuff that was going on. However, when I started going into like middle school, high school days, years, I started sensing a lot of pressure from, my peers and people that I was going to school with. You could see, especially on Valentine's Day, people receiving teddy bears and flowers. Now, granted, it just probably was not genuine, especially boys at that age don't care about nothing but, the physical contact, because their hormones are raging and all that stuff. So, part of me as a girl wanted that and yearned for that, but part of me knew that God has given me something special, something bigger. And so I had to press, through bullying and people telling me that I live a fairy tale, that it's never going to happen. I was about to get married around 16, 17 years old, and it wasn't the right person, but God has spared me from that relationship. And not to say that that person is bad. I think our lives would not have connected together, and it wasn't that something that God wanted to put together, me and him. And I'm sure that he will find that wonderful person for him. But God has really spared me throughout the whole process as I was growing older, from people that had bad intentions, or that, kind of were deceiving, that kind of put scriptures out there or said certain things. But I could tell with their relationship with people and what they did and how they acted, that they didn't love God with all their heart, that they were just saying those things to try to be attractive. And honestly, personally for me, when a person spoke, I started seeing how vain they are and how empty they are. And I think through that, and I'm not, being boastful, but I think God places people like me that have dedicated my life to serving God and to being pure in front of these men, you know, that did want to pursue my heart, but didn't know how to handle that, because most of the girls, you know, reacted in a different way. Like, wow, he's really attracted to me and he's saying all these nice things, you know, so I'm not going to vet anything. I'm just going to go ahead and do whatever he wants me to do. But I was very strict. I was a very much of a yes or no person. I really didn't show that I loved somebody or liked somebody. Let me just say that, liked somebody or were attracted to somebody. So it was kind of difficult for a lot of men to see that, you know, I was kind of ready to be chased after, because I feel like I haven't opened that doorway. So when I hit about 21 or 22, you know, by 18, I was moved out of my house. I had my own apartment. I worked full time. I went to college. So I had so much on my plate, and, you know, zero distractions because I was serving at church. But really, God took me out of a church from my culture, which is, I'm from Ukraine, and has placed me in a church which was American, and it was a multicultural church. You know, it was very different. It was very unique and somewhat really bizarre because of the cultural difference, and people were just kind of crazy, you know, jumping up and down, and it was just a different experience. But God really showed me that I needed to be there for a season, to grow spiritually, to just get a hold of these kingdom principles and utilize them in my life. And Ryan was actually leading or helping lead worship, and so he was on stage. This church was really huge. It was probably up to 5,000 people per service that would come through. Altogether, it was probably 14,000 members that came through maybe 1 month, because we did have like Wednesday services at that time. But I didn't think much about it, you know, I just kind of praise and worship, and we always kind of sat in the middle section, right smack down in the middle. And we got in touch with one gentleman that was doing an event there, and it was called Love God, Love People. And he asked me, my sister, and my brother to sing. We kind of sang trios, and I grew up listening to Southern gospel. So of course we picked the Martins, Great is the Lord. And we sang that song at that event, and then I didn't know that Ryan was also invited, and he was singing there too. And that's when he, you know, came up to us, and he had several other people with him, and we just kind of started hanging out. And, you know, a cultural thing that we do in our house, we have tea time, so we would just invite them over for tea, and we would have desserts and just have different discussions. And the funny thing is that we've always end up, you know, talking about dating, you know, because that's what single people do. And we ended up talking, you know, in the same kind of playing field. Me and him kind of ended up thinking the same way. And people kind of looked at us like, y'all need to get together or something, because y'all are thinking the same way. I don't think I thought of it that way. I still was kind of, you know, feeling content. I felt so, I felt so content during that year. I felt like God has taken me out and, you know, shifted me, and I was in a transition, and I was in this church and growing spiritually. And I think that was probably the first year that I really felt like, oh, I am so content, you know. I don't feel like I need a relationship right now. I'm good, you know. I feel satisfied with my relationship with God. I mean, of course, not, you know, not stagnant, but like I just feel satisfied with just me and God and my family, and I'm good. You know, I didn't need another person in my life. And I think like 2 months later, I think he was inspired by somebody to message me and ask me out, although he did like me from the very beginning, but he was very careful as well. And really what intimidated me about Ryan is that he knew the scriptures. You could tell that he was very genuine. He was very passionate. He was very kind. He treated, you know, his cousin very well. He treated a lot of ladies, you know, very well. And it wasn't like in a, let me do this for you so I can get something in return. He did it out of being like a gentleman. So I started seeing things in him, but you know, for the most part, I always thought that I was going to marry somebody within my culture. And that's exactly why I told him no the first time, was because I really thought that I was going to marry somebody who was, you know, from Ukraine or Russia. Or you know, from the roots, but was living here. And so like the whole year passed by, and I started like noticing towards the end of November, December, that he was pursuing me. He was just doing little things. And, you know, I think before the year was over, he had a housewarming party because he bought a house. And we stopped by there and we prayed. And I remember one lady was saying, now all he needs is a good wife. And, my heart kind of jumped, you know, but I didn't think much about it because I really didn't open the doorway to that. But I really started noticing that he was pursuing me, and in a very godly way. It wasn't, you know, in a creepy way. A lot of people told him to stop because I wasn't really showing, you know, much attention or showing any kind of signs that I was, you know, open for that relationship or whatever. But he kept pursuing. And I think there was one time where, it was my brother, Ryan, and his cousin, and I wasn't able to attend for some reason. And I think at that time, Ryan asked my older brother, which I had, you know, high respect for, and we were very close, if he could send me flowers. And Dimitri said that, oh, I just gave my brother's name away. And my brother said, of course, because we did have a few discussions, you know, people, you know, from my family were saying, how about Ryan? You know, he sings so well and he knows the word and he's such a godly man. And I'm like, oh, I don't know, we'll see. And so he sends me flowers on Valentine's Day, and I'm not going to go into a much detailed story because it's such a long story. And I wrote it up on my blog on culturecouture.com. The whole story, you know, the Valentine's Day story, how it changed my life, because it really did. When he sent me those flowers, I was so in awe, because the note stated, to a beautiful, virtuous, intelligent woman of God, Victoria, love Ryan. And to me, I didn't give out the word love because I thought it was kind of overrated, especially here in America. We love food, we love this, we love this, we love this. And I feel like once we do find somebody that we are really in love with, just I love you doesn't seem sufficient enough, because we've overused that word so much. So I knew that when I was going to tell that to somebody, it was going to be special, because I just didn't give it away to, you know, just random people. And so I really just kind of ignited my heart that he said love Ryan, because it really showed me how much he cared. And it was a huge bouquet of roses. It was like a crystal vase. You could tell, you know, he invested so much time and money into it, you know, and it really opened up my heart. And 2 weeks later, he asked me out on a date, which was very sweet. And, you know, he came and picked me up, and he was a very, you know, gentleman kind of way. He just walked me down the steps, and I remember holding on to him, to his hand. And just the whole night, every time we walked in and out of a restaurant or went to a cafe, I was kind of holding on to him, which is kind of interesting. But we spent about 4 to 5 hours on the date, and I felt such peace. I've always asked my friends that were married and found somebody that they were waiting for, and, you know, how did you know that that person was yours? And they said, oh, Victoria, you just know. And I'm like, that doesn't really help me. But I really understood on that date what exactly they were talking about. You just have such a peace that flows out of you, and you just know that the pieces of a puzzle comes together. And I knew that first date that Ryan was the one for me. And I always say that to get around with him, that I didn't tell him that so that he could work a little bit harder, because I waited a long time for this. So make sure, girls, that you don't give in to that. Make sure that the man pursues you and keeps treating you right. And my husband treats me very, very well, even now. So, and I'm very, very blessed. And actually, I'm wearing these earrings. The funny thing was, these are the same earrings that I wore on our first date. And when we went to a cafe shop, he said, oh, I have a gift for you. And so he slips into his blazer pocket, you know, he pulls it out, and he gives me this bracelet right here, which I thought it was kind of crazy, because it was the same crystal balls that I was wearing on my first date. Like, he didn't know I was wearing it. He had a person, a sweet lady, make it from church, and I was like, what a coincidence, you know? So just little things along the way. I felt God bless me so much for my time of waiting and trusting in him that he will bring me the right person. And so I just wanted to encourage you, you know, there's so many books out there. There's so many people that, you know, say, do this, do that, do that. But I think if you just lean on God and trust him that he will bring the right person, and that you follow, you know, his commandments and his word that he speaks. You know, you could read the word and what he says about dating, what he says about relationships, and just dedicate your life to serving your family, to serving, you know, your church. That's the most important thing, is for you to just invest in yourself during those single years. And just build whatever you have on the inside of you, build that capacity so that when you do get married, you're able to handle more responsibility, because marriage is another responsibility. And so if you feel like you think that once you get married, that everything will get resolved, everything will get situated, but honestly, there will be so many times when you'll see like a huge magnifying glass on your life, and you'll see exactly the person that you are. And so I really encourage you to take time to trust God and to pray for your husband in the right way, and to lean on God and surround yourself with people that will encourage you in your walk. And I know, you know, I have some friends that are still waiting, and they're just such sweet people, and I always pray for their spouse. And I know that God will grant them the desires of their heart, because they've dedicated their life to serving people, to serving you know, to serving humanity in general. And I know that God will reward them. And so I just encourage you, you know, don't give up in this fight. The world will tell you to do something else, but anything that is great is always worth the pain, the trials, because it all in the end shapes you and molds you into a better person. I am not the same person that I was when I was a single person, because now I'm married. I have different responsibilities. And even coming up towards, you know, my time of courtship with my husband, I knew that God was preparing me for that time. And that whole time that I was dating Ryan, I was so emotional and so overwhelmed, because I saw little things along the way that I thought I asked, you know, for a certain kind of spouse, and I thought this is what he's going to look like, this is what we're going to do, this is exactly how everything's going to play out. And then when God brings you that right person, you'll have so much peace, you'll have so much joy in your heart, and it's so overwhelmed that God knows every single part, intricate part of your being, and that he will bring the right person that will able to hold you and carry you and lift you and cover you, because that's what a husband is supposed to do. So women, allow men to pursue you. Don't give in to those people that have bad intentions, that have hurts. And so they want to connect themselves with people and hurt others because they feel like that they can fulfill that void. When you become that whole person and you become content with who you are, God will bring that right person at the right time. And I just encourage you to continue to read God's word, to pray, and in that you will find peace, you will find joy, you will find satisfaction, because nothing will satisfy that emptiness that you have. You know, not even marriage, not children. A lot of people experience those things along the way. They think, well, maybe if I get married, I'll be fine. Maybe once I have children, I'll be fine. Only to realize that the responsibility and the weight expands, and that pain that they had on the inside of them only hurts more, and that emptiness is kind of like pushed to the surface. And a lot of times, you know, the things that you thought you can hide, you cannot hide anymore. So I just encourage you to invest in yourself. Don't be afraid to wait and to stand up for the right things that God has called you to do. And that is to dedicate your life to purity. You know, the Lord said, whatever is pure, whatever is noble, whatever is praiseworthy, on those things set your mind and affections, and God will order your steps. And God also says in Proverbs, you know, lean not on your own understanding, but acknowledge God in all of your ways, and he will direct your path. I hope this video has blessed you. I know I've chatted so much about my story, and I know there's so much more. Make sure that you go onto my blog at culturecouture.com. I have lots of blogs that I do about relationships, about my story, about my marriage. So if you're wanting to check that out, make sure that you do so. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you have not not subscribed, so please do so that we can stay in touch and change the world. As always, create culture and be you. Love you guys.